I see a lot of people in the audience, and while we're all different shapes and sizes, I think that we have something in common. And that commonality is that we don't want to be a victim. Is that safe to say? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'd like to protect you and your online assets with 5 tools and techniques that I use and employ in my own business and in my personal life. So first and foremost, I think what we need to do is we need to actually take an inventory of our current online or our current assets. So what I'd like to ask the audience here is, do you guys, excuse me, give me some current online assets that you guys feel that you have.
Facebook.
Facebook, emails, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of social media. What else?
Bill pay.
Website and bill pay, absolutely. So let me break down the online assets in a couple categories. First, we have the personal assets and business assets. So a lot of you mentioned already the social media and blog accounts. I think that's very important as far as your personal assets go, because it tells a lot about who you are and a lot about what you've done, and so you want to be able to protect that. Secondly, you mentioned some domain names. I think that's important too. Domain names these days are a rarity. You can never get the correct domain name, and so when you do, you need to hold on to it. We have down the list here some email accounts, shopping accounts. I mean, these are all things that you guys use on a daily basis, maybe even charitable giving accounts. You don't want to leave your charity high and dry if somebody else doesn't know about your online assets. And finally, I think a lot of people miss the point of digital media, and that's your iTunes accounts, your movies, and your ebooks. I transitioned to that quite a while ago, and now I have a cache of music and I have a cache of ebooks that really can't be replaced without high cost. And so we need to make sure that we take these ebooks or take this digital media and make sure that we have it for the long term. Now on the business asset side, we have, if you're a solopreneur, potentially you're doing Etsy or Amazon or eBay and you're selling things, you have mailing lists. I mean, that's a huge asset for your company. CRM data. You know everything about your clients and their data and their shopping habits and their needs. And finally, I think we have online storage. And I use this pretty extensively. A lot of our clients are migrating away from that server on-site and putting their data on their local computer, and now they're putting it up in the cloud. And so what happens to that data if you don't pay your bill? Does it get destroyed? Who knows, right? Did you guys read the fine print? So all of your spreadsheets, all of your Word documents, stuff that you guys need to run your business is going to be stored in the cloud. So step number 1 of my 5 steps is absolutely create an exhaustive list of your online assets. You need to categorize your list, personal and business, potentially financial, and mementos. Keep hard and soft copies of your data. Now, I'm saying keep hard and soft copies of the actual lists. Okay, soft copies are great and you can update them pretty easily. But if, God forbid, you get hit by the proverbial bus, how is your next in line or your next kin or the person you trust going to be able to access all that list and figure out that you had 5 bank accounts and they didn't know about it? Or you had an online brokerage account. And then revisit this annually and keep it up to date. So that last comment kind of leads into ensure that you have the proper access to those that need it. So those that need access need to know they have access. Okay, so prepare for that disaster. Include this in your estate planning. Include it in your will. Ensure that the people that you choose to entrust know where the data is and how to access it, and know what it's used for. So how do we do that? How do we transition all of that data? I've got, I'm going to say, no less than 75 online accounts in various degrees and importance. So how do I keep all of that information and transfer it, let's say, to my wife or my kids if I were to pass? Well, there's an easy way, and I've found out, and that goes on to the number 3, and that's use a password manager. So a password manager I use, not only in my business, but in my personal life, is called LastPass. Now this is free for personal use, and you can pay for extended features on the enterprise level, but LastPass allows you to remember only one password and keep that handy, and be able to access all of your other accounts with that one password. And they do that by creating a series of tools that reside on their servers in line with your browser. Let's say you're using Mozilla Firefox or using Internet Explorer. It's a plug-in right into your browser, and you can also use it on your smartphones. Okay, now I use it on my smartphone a lot to access certain information. And the great thing about smartphones is that now you can use your fingerprints. And so it ties right in. So I can use my biometric data to actually access my passwords and my secure content within LastPass. So how does this help not only with protecting one's accounts, but also transferability? Well, everything is in one place, and so that exhaustive list that I told you about is always going to be constantly updated, and you can export it. So create a hard copy using LastPass that takes all of the account data that you currently have, and you can export that out, put it into a vault, put it into a safe place. So it's always up to date, all in one program, and it gives you, the great thing about this is it gives you one password for you to remember, but now you can have complex multiple passwords for every other account. So now you're not using your dog's name for your banking account versus, in your Gmail account. Because a lot of times what you're going to see is crimes of opportunity, people guessing passwords, Twitter accounts that get hacked. This is stuff that, they go online and they see, do this in a different speech where they actually go online and they look at your social media accounts and the pets that you love and the family members that are close to you, and they get an idea of what your passwords might be, and they try those out. So now you can steer clear of that. Use that for your LastPass account. And then you can have everything else with a multiple digit, multiple character, upper lowercase, highly complex passwords for everything else. So that's not the only thing. What we need to next do is talk about two-factor authentication. So this is the fourth thing in the 5-step process. And this is probably one of the most important besides LastPass. So you need to have an idea of all of your accounts. You need to secure it with a secure password through LastPass. And next you need two-factor authentication, which basically says you know something and you also have something. You know a password, you know a username, but now you need to have something in your hands to be able to authenticate. Now you can see how difficult that would be for somebody to access your accounts if they actually had to have the thing you had. Okay, so I use a tool, great two-factor authentication tool, which is free, and it is from Google Apps. And you just sign up for it, and you get an app on your phone, and you you touch the app and it comes up with all of your websites, all of the accounts that you have two-factor authentication enabled for, and it gives you a 6-digit PIN code. And so you type in your username, you type in your password, you look at your little app, and you get a 6-digit PIN code. Now back in the day, this was primarily RSA securities, and you had a little token key ring. A lot of enterprise level folks use this. I use this. I used to work at Anheuser-Busch. We would use this to be able to actually log into the systems. It was a little token. Now we don't need that. We can use third-party apps, which are free, which are great. But it adds another layer of security that I think is truly a step above everybody else that's doing everything. So if you're the general population and you're not using this and you get attacked, let's say one of your accounts, your Home Depot account, gets hacked, not any fault of yours, but they come in the back end, which Home Depot actually had this happen to them, so it's a great example, and they took all their clients' information. So if you had your puppy's name, they could pretty much decipher, okay, I'm gonna use this account for the other things that they have. Well, now they have a username and password and they can access your account. But if you had two-factor authentication, they would not be able to because they don't have what you have. Sure, they know your username and password, but they don't know your PIN number. So that's the beauty. So I've got a tip. All of what I just said can easily go down the drain if you don't do a couple things. You need to look out for yourself, okay? You're your own worst enemy. You're your own weakest link a lot of times. And so don't set inactivity logout or do set inactivity logout limits. Okay, so if you're going to step away from your PC, if you're working in an office, first and foremost, you want to lock it. But let's just say it even got stolen, okay? You want to make sure that there's no crime of opportunity, no drive-by looky-loos. You don't want to be logged in for an extended period of time. So set your auto logout limits. A lot of these are defaulted to 5, 10 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, but there are even others that may be important to you. Like Facebook, I think, is like 4, 5, 8 hours. Well, they'll just auto log in and keep you in because they want you in. They don't want you to have to enter your username and password again. It's inconvenient. But then convenience and security are diametrically opposed. And don't allow your browser to remember your passwords. If I were to steal your laptop, let's say you didn't have two-factor authentication, I could get into your laptop, and I know I could, and if you had saved all your passwords, I've got access to everything. So it's convenience, but it's not secure. But you know what is convenient and secure? Using a password manager like LastPass. So my fifth tip and tool is awareness and strategy. Now I got a cute little baby here, another one, that is got a mugshot. Now why is that? Well, I use you got to have awareness, but you also have a strategy. So my awareness, what I want to say about this is I use a company called LifeLock. There are many other companies like it. And what they do is they try to protect your identity by monitoring your personal information. Okay? Probably a lot of you already have it because maybe you were a victim already of a corporate hack and they automatically put you in the system. But what this does, LifeLock, what this does for me is it kind of gives me a little bit of a peace of mind that not only my information is being reported on and it's being sent to me, but it's also being scanned and documented for my children. Because criminals, they prey on the weakest among us. They prey on the senior citizens, and they prey on the people that currently don't have an ID. That's probably the best one to get. It's a clean slate, right? They've already got state-issued Social Security or federal issue Social Security numbers and state IDs and birth certificates. So it's a clean slate. And I've read too many articles on this, and that's why I got that picture, because you get the criminals that act as children, get their IDs. So you want to gut check against this too. So I set up Google Alerts, and some of you in here I know use Google Alerts. But I use it for checking the internet for my own personal information. I will give Google my name, address, mother's maiden name, driver's license number. I don't do social security numbers. I leave that up to LifeLock. I'm just paranoid in that way. But I will give them those numbers. They will come back to me every week and let me know if one of those showed up on the internet. Now I'm able to check that, put it into context. A lot of times it's based on my last name, which is weird that other people have my last name, but I find that they're in arrest reports, so that's not that good. We're not winning awards with my last name. We're in the jail docket, but nonetheless, it's a good tool to have just to make sure. And finally, you want to secure all of this in case the worst happens. And so you want to go to your insurance company, in my opinion, and you want to ask them about an umbrella policy and what that covers. And furthermore, if they have specific identity theft protection, which I know a lot of companies do now, because it's such a hot button issue, a lot of people want it, and so they would love to charge you for it. However, my company, insurance company, actually covers that under the umbrella policy. So they will help you monetarily get your life back. Now, my final tip here is to have a fake online persona. And I've preached this before, but I'm going to preach it again. Have some fake credentials, have a fake persona online, so you can give fake email addresses and fake names and even sometimes social security numbers if you're not really tied to the business that's wanting it. This disinformation is probably the best and easiest way to get yourself out of holes. Even if you're on in the checkout line and they're asking for a phone number or a zip code, I give them fake ones all the time because I don't want that stuff tied to me at all, or my credit card, because I use my credit card for everything. So don't let them track you. So to recap, we have 5 things here that's really going to help you. 5 tangible things that you can do to protect yourself from being a victim. Know your digital assets. Ensure that you have a succession plan for your digital assets. Ensure that those people know and you've talked to them about what they are, how they work, and how they're going to potentially take those over. Use a password manager and 2-factor authentication. Help yourself, protect yourself. It's easy. They made it super easy. And then finally have good awareness and a good strategic plan in case the worst does happen. Thank you.
2-factor?
Yeah, so to explain a little bit more about 2-factor authentication, it is an extra layer of protection for authentication. So you authenticate with your username and password as normal. Some websites and some companies will allow you to use that second factor. Now, you have to go into kind of deep into, like, let's say you're using Gmail and you want to use 2-factor authentication with Gmail. You actually have to go into the options of Gmail and enable 2-factor authentication.
Okay, so you kind of gotta look for it.
You got to kind of look for it. Just same with Yahoo, same with Facebook. You have to go look for it in the options, say I want to enable it. But once you do, it'll ask you. A lot of times if you got the smartphone app, it'll put up a little barcode thing, and you just put your camera over it, and it'll automatically sync up.
Okay.
And then that way you'll get a little PIN code.
Okay.
So the next time you log in, you put your username, password, and a PIN code.
Okay.
And that's free to download from Google Apps, by the way. You can. They will also text it to you, and I think they'll also give you a phone call. And it'll be like a robot voice that will tell you the numbers. In case you don't want the app or you don't have a smartphone, yeah. Yeah, I am. I use a website called fakenamegenerator.com. Pretty self-explanatory. This will, quite honestly, this is almost a little bit scary. They actually have legitimate names, first and last names, and they have legitimate addresses and legitimate social security numbers, and they put all these together, and they're not in use, but they put all the. It's like a slot machine. You pull it, and all this stuff comes together, and it's randomized, and so you get a first and last name with an address and a telephone number. That works, and that's.
They're not the same people or the same.
No, nothing matches up. Nothing is cohesive. Somebody did hack LastPass. Nothing is sacred online. Okay? Hackers, they go to the source, the biggest honeypot. Well, online bank accounts obviously are a big honeypot, but so is LastPass because it gives you access to absolutely everything and a detailed description of what it is. So they did get hacked, but they knew that they were going to get hacked, and that's why I use them, because I researched that company, and they do encryption in a very unique and very good way. And so while they got hacked, nothing came out. So normally when you get hacked, like I knew Disney got hacked, and because I own stock in Disney, they sent me a free 2 years of online ID theft protection. Now, LastPass didn't do that because they didn't have to, because they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that, in fact, even though they got hacked, none of their information leaked out because of their encryption process. Now, LastPass itself actually uses two-factor authentication as well. You can enable it. And so I enable it. So even if usernames and stuff got out, they wouldn't have the two-factor authentication. They wouldn't have that little token to actually get in and access my other data.
Do they keep that separate then?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Logins are separate from the database where all of your stuff is located.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you give some examples of some good names that you've used in the past?
There we go.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think you probably know one I've used in the past. This is a pretty good one. I used a name called Bobby Socks. Bobby Socks was my guy. I was Bobby Socks with a lot of accounts. Bobby Socks Gmail account, and I rotate those every year. So I'm not going to tell you what this year is, but succession planning. Yeah. That's been a big hot topic for a lot of these because they started fairly early and nobody was really passing along, but now all this rich content has come in, and a lot of these times, these Twitter accounts of these famous people, and they're very valuable, and they make millions of dollars on these accounts, and so they've got the attorneys to say this is what you need to do, but for the average person, how do you gracefully give all of that information away and send it down? Well, you need to have a plan first and foremost, and I just showed you a tool that you can use to gracefully and securely push all of that information away. Like I said, I have personally over 75 accounts that I know of that range from charities that we give to monthly to bank accounts and brokerage accounts, even state accounts to renew your license and stuff like that. All of that stuff, if I were unfortunately pass away, my wife would have to deal with on top of the tragedy. And so you want to make it as seamless as possible for your family. So I think it's a good idea to definitely consolidate those accounts if you can into a short list, and then make sure that the next in line knows about it, at the very least knows about them. Because I know there's a lot of, there's some state laws and stuff now that if you provide the death certificate and you're a family member, that you can gain access to it. But some of these companies cross state boundaries and there are different laws. So that's really why you need to have that. Well, I hope this was very helpful to everyone. I hope you have some tangible stuff to go back and do and practice. And if you have any questions or anything to get this set up, please feel free to give me a call.